Everyone, Nate Benarski here, back identifying crab spiders. Before we get into identifying all these crab spiders, I wanted to show you something that I think is pretty cool. This observer who observes a lot of very high quality uh, observations of crab spiders and running crab spiders, um, taking photos under a microscope, taking photos of the diagnostic uh, um, materials, I think has allowed us to get the first living photograph or photograph of a living specimen of a species that was described a long time ago. Um, so I think this is Philodromus montanus, based on the palp, and this is a species that externally, from here or even from here, you can't tell it from a different species, Philodromus minutus. But it takes looking at the palp. And so the way that we do this is there are drawings of these characteristics in the literature. And I believe that what I'm doing right now would be considered fair use. So this, even though this was written, published in 68, so the copyright might still be active, but I'm not making money off of this. And so I'm very confident this is fair use. Um, But the differences between this one right here, 73, which is Montanus, and this one, which is Minutus, the easiest difference is this, the retrolateral tibial apophysis, the RTA, and Minutus is long and slender, and it's a little bit curved at the tip. You can see there, it's got some curvature there. And then in Montanus, it is shorter and it is much more curved. You can see in these other figures. So that's the main way that you can tell. And if we had a photo from this lateral side here, you would see in Minutus, this is kind of, like the bottom of a U shape, and then over here you can see it doesn't quite form. This side is facing inwards. And when we come over here and look at these photos, we can see from some of these photos, like over here, this looks like it is short and it's curved, and it looks like it's curving inwards. It doesn't look like it's coming out in a U shape. Um, and so perhaps with some other photos from a different angle, we could be 100% sure. But from what I can tell, or like here, yeah, you can see that's coming inward. It's not going outward, and it's pretty short and curved. Um, and when you combine that with the range, Montanus is only known from North Carolina and Virginia. Um, so this is a good candidate for this. Minutus is known from is almost all across the eastern United States, including North Carolina and Virginia. Um, but yeah, I think this is a really cool example of iNaturalist working. And if you are interested in really contributing to our knowledge of spiders, then taking photos of preserved specimens under a microscope, seeing if you can go to a local museum or university and borrow a microscope to take photos of things like this can be extremely helpful for our understanding of spiders and science. So I'm just going to be identifying a page here. Uh, uh, so starting off here, Mecaphysa celer, that looks good to me. And the eastern United States, there really seems to be only one crab spider species that can be brightly colored yellow like this, hairy, and has this little pattern of 4 dots here. Um, so I agree with that. Then we get Missamena in Spain and Portugal. So in this area of the world, there are actually 2 Missamena species. They're both currently synonymized under Missamena vatia, which this is probably is, um, based on the fact that you have these allottal stripes, this kind of colored area to the side of the carapace that's different from the center. In the other species, Missamena occidentalis, the carapace will be like a solid white or a solid yellow, and the eye region will typically be a red or orangish red. Um, the reason why they were pseudonymized is somebody took a look at the type specimens and Simon's description. He described them and wasn't able to find a significant difference. But when you compare other things like the males of Missamina occidentalis, they're green, and the males of Missamina vadia are black. And Missamina occidentalis only occurs in like southern Portugal, uh, south and central Spain. And if Missamina occidentalis was just a color form of Missamina vadia, then you would expect to see that color form with green males all across Missamina vadia's range, which is, the entire northern hemisphere. Um, and We don't see that. So I think there's a very strong case. If we looked at the genetics, I'm sure that Missamina occidentalis would be different from Missamina vadia. Um, Here's another one. This is probably Missamina Mecaphessa celer. And another way that you can tell Mecaphessa, even when you can't see the spines are diagnostic. Another pretty good hint is this V shape of pyramidal maculae, is what these are called. So maculae spots pyramidal on either side of the median. Um, and these maculae kind of seem to sit on guanine patches, and guanine is what sits underneath the spider's epidermis and expands and contracts to help the spider change color. Mechaphisa seem to be able to change color when they are um, in between molts. When they're molting, they can change color to match their surroundings. They can't really change color in real time, as opposed to Missamina vadia, which can change color whenever it wants. It just takes a few days. There's Missamina vadia. That's Thymicis anustis. This is a very pretty, another color changing spider, and you can see here you have this pigment, this guanine, this kind of expanding from points, and so that might indicate that this spider is changing color. It's probably Zysticus punctatus. It's a fairly uniquely patterned one. This, I guess the best way to compare it is like a pine cone pattern. That's how I think of it. And it's the only one in the eastern United States that I'm aware of that has this pattern. In the western United States, you have Locuples, which is kind of from Southern California all the way up into Canada, and they kind of overlap in range with punctatus up here. And then out here in the desert, you mostly are getting Apacheus or Apacheus or something like that. Um, so these might be misidentified. I might have to double check those later. Another Mechaphisa celer, and what you'll notice is that there are certain spider species that are really overrepresented, just because their abundance is not evenly distributed. There are some species where there are tons of them, and then there are others where there are not very many. Here's Zysticus texanus, one of the most distinct looking Zysticus out there. It's got this very unique, kind of translucent undertone to the carapace with this dark U-shaped band here, this dark abdomen with these white transverse lines, and then these legs that have the very dark tibia, or tibia. Can't speak. Um, so that's a fun little Zysticus, one of the few that can be identified. Another celer. Okay, now we're in Australia. So this Missamini in Australia, I think that's Mystera. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think I see enough of the ocular region where I can tell that it's not it doesn't have the ocular tubercles of Zygometis, and also the overall color is being kind of a light white peachy color. It differs from the other Australian Missaminini, like Boomerangiana, which is green. Um, Legia is green. It's currently incorrectly placed in Theralia, but it is Legia, or Legia. Um, And what are the other missing meaning there? Australum is, I can't say it. This is my first time ever trying to say this word. Aus- let me see how it's spelled. Australomycidia. Yeah, Australomycidia. Those are typically green, or if they are kind of this whitish color, they'll be patterned. They'll have dots on them, like Australomycidia kangaroo beluski. Let's see. Yeah, kangaroo blasaki. First time saying that as well. Um, that will have dark spots all over it. So this is Anastera. Now there's a Stickus in Europe, Megaphesa aspirata. So it's got these big palps in the United States. Hairy spider, green with a kind of pale abdomen with maroon markings. That's that. Now there's a Stickus. Don't try bothering those two species, identifying those two species in Europe. That's Megaphesa celer. Um, that's the male Missamina varia. If this was Missamina occidentalis, would be green. I'll go ahead and try to pull that up. Um, First, I'm going to try to. I guess I can't. So Missamina, Spain, and I'll just right now I've been identifying them just to genus. Um, there's the good photo of the female of Missamina occidentalis. Let me see if I can find a male. It's a fun photo. I'll show you that too. Uh, there So that's the male of Missamina occidentalis, which people were saying for a while was actually, I mean, for the past like 40 plus years, people have been saying that this and this are the same species. Even though these guys can change color, but they change color to like blue. They don't change color to green. Um, Anyhow, the females look like this, kind of uniformly light carapace with a bright eye region. If this was Missamina, you'd expect there to be a white patch running from the eyes down to the back of the carapace, and you'd expect that to be flanked by some like stripes on either side, a lot of stripes. And then here's a photo showing that sometimes spiders can be pollinators. They can be covered in pollen and could theoretically transfer this from flower to flower. And close out of those. Now there's a Stickus. There's a Stickus. Some sort of Megaphisa in California. This is about the best we can do most of the time. Some sort of Maris, I guess is how you say that. It's named after some mountain range somewhere, so I guess I could look up how to say the mountain range name. Um, Common crab spider gets constantly misidentified. This is probably not that species, but I'll let the European experts weigh in on that. Now there's a Stickus. That might be Stickus audox, but I don't identify these two species in Europe. Thymisis anustis, only Thymisis in most of Europe. Ebrechitella, tricuspidata. This is another one of the few crab spiders that has just an enormous range. It doesn't occur there. That's a wrong occurrence. Um, but it occurs from Portugal all the way over to like Japan. And what's interesting is that, and all down here you got some different Ebrechitella species, but if we just pull up this one, you can see the map. It's all the way down into from Portugal to Japan to southern China. You can find the same species, and the variation between the ones in Japan and the ones in Portugal is less than the variation within a population. So these aren't. It's not like this is a different species and this is a different species. The reason why there's a gap in this range is because no one's living in Mongolia taking pictures of spiders and posting it to an iNaturalist. Well, I guess one person is. Um, uh, but yeah, this is interesting because there are some crab spiders that they have a range that's just one particular area. Like let me try to think of a good example. I'll do like if that's a Carlatonica. Um, you'll find this Texas population. I think is probably a different species, and same with one up in Iowa. But I think that this species you can find it from Massachusetts over into maybe Wisconsin, with the center of its distribution seeming to be Pennsylvania, from what I can tell, both in iNaturalist and in the literature. This is actually a really cool species. It's got these reflective patches underneath its femora for whatever reason. Um, Not sure why, but when they lift up their legs to a camera, even a camera without flash, it will catch the light and reflect back at them. Very pretty spider. And you can see there, even if it's not reflecting the light, you can tell that there's something going on that's weird with the, the um, photonic properties, or how would you say that? The way that the bottom surface of their femora is interacting with light is just strange. Very unlike any other Mecaphysa, other than think maybe Mecaphysa, maybe there's one maybe more in California that can have that sometimes, but this one consistently has it. Um, Anyhow, that's just a little talk about variation in crab spiders. There's another, that's the female, that's the male. Crab spiders often have some pretty dynamic, pronounced sexual dimorphism. Another Thymosis anustus. Uh, Cysticus ferox is just constantly misidentified. Sigmas cristatus, I just ignore those for right now. That is a Zysticus. You can tell it's not Cynema parvulum. One, because Cynema parvulum is like a quarter of the size of this spider. It's a very small spider. And then also this is brown instead of orange. Doesn't have solid black front legs and doesn't have an orange abdomen with a black little diaper. I guess is the best way to put it. You see, yeah, there's this little black diaper. Um, Moving on. Now there's a Stickus, and that was one page. Got a lot more observations to go. I hope that you'll stick around as I work through this. Thank you.